$105 million in anticipated tax refunds that need to be paid this year, lump sum back pay for line agency and law enforcement, and the call to reinstate increments for GovGuam employees. These are just some of the current obligations Senator Michael Nicholas wanted to address with this morning's oversight with Rev Tax.
We are going over these agenda items in particular because it's important that we vigilantly collect on taxes, penalties, and interest rightfully owed for the people and the government that serves them.
It was in January when the Oversight Chair sent Governor Eddie Calvo a letter raising concern over the outstanding accounts receivable dating back over a decade, totaling $169 million. DRT Deputy Director Marie Benito says that figure may be a little exaggerated, but admits the difficulty in collecting such as the taxpayer's inability to pay.
So those are some of the problems, the bankruptcies, the litigations, probates, and that's why it's very difficult to collect that amount in a year.
6 new revenue officers have come on board, bringing its total fleet to 24, all of whom are responsible for collecting both current and prior year obligations. She says the challenge, though, is training.
And right now, they don't do any field work. They're just in the office collecting as they come in, or they make phone calls and make direct contact with taxpayers.
However, Nicholas noted there are $66 million that are a year or less overdue, along with $91 million that are beyond a year past due, $11 million of which are overdue from over a decade.
And yet for that amount to be so large, it really concerns me.
Nicholas further questioned the statute of limitations for those collections, saying those are overdue a decade may still be pursued.
Because these have lapsed the statute of limitations, the only possible recourse now is a fraud investigation. So I would encourage the department to evaluate this $11.4 million and determine whether or not any of these things could be flagged for instances of fraud.
Meanwhile, the Criminal Investigation Branch of DRT has yet to look into the matter either, as its last successful case of any recovery hasn't been since the 1990s.
Because in the past few years, it's always been bare bones in that branch. They lack training right now.
When we have all those obligations, we need to be making every effort to pursue those monies. And for the Criminal Investigation Branch, since the early 90s, not having any recoveries, very problematic.
Benito says she wants to restore the public's confidence in DRT and hopes to address that first with staffing training, which will start by the end of this year, including working with the Internal Revenue Services. She further noted that DRT has put together just last week procedures for the seizure of assets regarding collections.
But that is one of our plans. We just finished writing all the manuals and procedures to go forward. So one of them is to start seizing assets.
The last set of procedures were created in the 1980s, with the last seizing of assets not since the 1990s as well. Nicholas, meanwhile, hopes to receive regular monthly updates from DRT in order to measure progress. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Ken Quintanilla.